mics again, testing. No, no test, okay. By the way, we acknowledge the elected politicians in the room, and before, there was Tish James, Steve Levin. Steve Levin had just walked out. Steve Levin's in the room. Acknowledgement taken care of again. Our next candidate is Anthony Gronowicz. He's the Green Party candidate. He's a CUNY professor. He's written some books, Class Politics in New York City Before the Civil War, and an article in the Encyclopedia of New York. The ground rules are, we're giving you 8 minutes. Martha Rowen is the timekeeper. She'll give you a 2-minute warning. And then at that point, Carolyn will talk to you about what you may have not addressed yet. So welcome and thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I have a classical education, so I certainly believe in books and the importance of books. And of course, New York City is the center of the publishing world still, and books are key. And this destruction of the 42nd Street Library that is proposed under the current mayor, and I noticed that Scott Stringer has approved the Grand Central renovation project, which is all part of this scheme. I couldn't agree with Randy more as to what is going on with this city. What's happened is that Wall Street is at a record and homelessness is at a record. The city is being, and of course if you look at the Fiscal Policy Institute, you'll see that the city has never had such a great disparity between wealth and poor since slave days. I'm not exaggerating. I did a book called Race and Class Politics in the city, New York City, before the Civil War. And of course, the great writers, Melville, Cooper, Poe, were living here, and Thoreau on Staten Island. So this has always been a center for culture, replacing Boston in the early 19th century. And with the publishing industry, in fact, there were more newspapers in this city in 1850 than, I think, was one for every 5 people than any before in the history. And what's happened is that you develop a culture, the culture is expropriated, and I'm thinking of the black culture which in the 1820s produced the African theater, which doing Shakespeare better than the Astor Theater, named after Astor on 8th Street. This is the 1820s, and we fast forward to the minstrel shows, vaudeville, and Broadway. And for a while, when New York City was the port of the world, this was the cultural center. But what's happened with the globalization and the entrance of the 12-year reign of Michael Bloomberg, the richest mayor in history, art, culture, unless it's a retread of Broadway, is being destroyed. There is no music. Chico Hamilton, the great jazz drummer, said on Leonard Lopate that in the 1950s in LA, every public high school in Los Angeles had a music teacher, at least one, and every student had to play an instrument which was provided by the schools. And we have the current mayor, I think the most destructive mayor in the city's history since Fernando Wood, in the late 1850s, certainly the most destructive mayor when it comes to the public and public education. Famously said on December 1st, 2011 at MIT, of course you can all find this on your thingamajigs instantly, that he would be comfortable with a classroom size of 70. You can look this up. He's destroyed public education. He tried to destroy the teachers' union. He should be in jail, frankly, for the stuff that he's done to this city, the crimes that he's committed. And he's off to London, January 2nd, where they're building a square for him because of all the money. It's going to be as ambitious as the square block south of Bloomingdale's. That's his headquarters. It's going to be called Bloomberg Square, and this is what's going on. Obviously, I am 100% for libraries. Every school should have a fully equipped library. Nothing should be done to destroy that architectural masterpiece. I guess I'm quoting Ada Louise Huxtable or Michael Kimmelman, certainly the two giants in architectural criticism in this city for the past 40 or 50 years. So I would go by what they say. I go by the experts on this score, and I would have experts. I would not tamper with this. And you can finance all of this through a stock transfer tax, which we had in this city from 1905 to 1980. You could raise billions of dollars a year with a stock transfer tax. And as mayor, I would do what the Green mayor in Richmond, California has done. She was featured in the New York Times a couple of weeks ago, Gail McLaughlin. She wasn't identified as a Green, but she uses eminent domain when people are underwater because they've been ripped off by some bank. She went in there, declared eminent domain, and the city took over the housing financing for that particular person in their household. I would use eminent domain. I would use the police department. Bloomberg does. He said on Letterman or one of the other shows, it's my own private army. He said it was his private army. Well, I would use the police department to enforce these things, not allowing the real estate. I'm not beholden to real estate. I had a classical education. I went to Trinity School, PS6, Trinity School, Columbia University, did my dissertation on the 19th century political parties, especially the Democratic Party. It was corrupt then, it's corrupt now, except the position of the US in the world has changed, and the one percenters who hearken back to the Pilgrim days and are now bent on ruling the world. It's very clear. They don't give a damn even what their allies, close allies, think, as the formidable vote yesterday in the House of Commons demonstrated. So things are accelerating. The process of decay, a violent, rotting empire. I did a big book which on the whole subject, starting off with Machiavelli and his statescraft, and Leonardo da Vinci, my man, and his war toys, and taking it forward to the current deceiver, Barack Obama. Yes, 2 minutes. Okay. So what would I do? Well, obviously I would not cut library hours. I would expand library hours. I would go after the money that's in New York. In 1978, the top 1% owned 9% of the assets in the city. As of 2011, according to the Fiscal Policy Institute, it is 45%, which pushes it into the 19th century. All right? So this is so obvious to me, but they don't want people who are literate. Indigenous culture is being destroyed in the city. The Rebel Diaz Collective, I was there. You can look at my website, votegronowicz.info. I have a litany. I feel like Kirk Douglas in Ulysses, going around the city and embracing the insurgencies of the people who are being left out, shut out, and frisked out. I have to teach students who have been stopped and frisked. None of the candidates on both parties talk about the negative psychological trauma caused by students that we have, and there was a big article in the Times in December 2011 by one of our students of being stopped and frisked 5 times. Student has to go to class, he's black, he's stopped and frisked, he's not going to do well on a test. This is a criminal activity. That's why the mayor should be in jail. 5 million stop and frisks. There is no correlation, and that's a myth. LA doesn't have it, St. Louis doesn't have it, and their crime rate dropped. The crime rate dropped nationally in the 1990s, if you do a comparative study. And I've done a lot of comparative study and a lot of quantitative research. So people repeat the same things over again. You know, they believe in the tooth fairy, they believe in Santa Claus, and this is what's going on. So naturally, under a green regime, we would have a totally different, we'd be serving the people, not Wall Street and not the tourist industry, the public.
I have a couple of questions. You were talking about the stop and frisk affecting the crime rate. Libraries, as
This is working.
much research shows, also reduce the crime rate. Public libraries allow a space for teenagers to be quiet and studying, and reduces the crime rate and the teenage dropout rate. What do you think about the issue of Mayor Bloomberg's decision to provide a waiver so that the schools will no longer have to have school librarians?
It's an international disgrace. I would, obviously. And he doesn't give a damn. He's totally insensitive. I have a studio next door to the New York Society Library where I've been a member since '78 and done a number of lectures. And this guy was clueless about Sandy with the marathon and clueless about education, which I pointed out already.
And
He's not a member of the library. He's never taken out a book. He's a half a block away.
And you're talking about also the trauma that people experience from the stop and frisk. What about the trauma of, are you aware that there are non-disparagement agreements that many librarians have had to sign so that they cannot talk about what is going on?
Well, that's a gag rule. I've been gagged at a couple of debates. Fortunately, Anthony Weiner has come to my rescue, even though I pointed out in the first debate that he was that's how he came to power in '91 was through race baiting a candidate that he was an incumbent. But yes, that's a gag rule. I'm not allowed to speak because I'm more articulate. I talk outside of the box. I'm not beholden to real estate and Wall Street. So that's all part of the pattern of censorship. I urge all of you, when you have free time, look up Operation Northwoods. Operation Northwoods. What was going on in '62 and the connection to what happened in '63. That's a riddle. Yes.
One last question. The stacks underneath the main 42nd Street Library, the crown jewel of the library system, providing millions of research books to scholars from around the world who come here to study. The books, about 3 million, have been removed and are in a warehouse in New Jersey. Those stacks are now empty. What do you think about the public-private partnerships between NYC and the MPL that's causing suspension of ordinary rules such as competitive bids, union and minority participation, and public scrutiny, such as the plans that they have developed that involve the removal of those books?
No, obviously I'm completely opposed to this crime against the public, I would describe it. Crime against learning, and also crime against architectural integrity, as has already been pointed out by Kimmelman and Huxtable. And the structural integrity of the building, the stacks underneath the building, the easy access, the people who have gone to the general reading room that I have seen there. Mia Farrow looking at old Life magazines of Marilyn Monroe, for instance. I've used that research reading room many times. And to have them warehoused, I mean, this is a library. Libraries are key to civilization. Alexandria's library, for instance. There are lots of situations today in which the public is being violated, and the public has to strike back. I'm a nonviolent person. My rhetoric is fairly strong, but it's going to lead to this. We're going to have in Egypt, in Athens, and Istanbul. We already had Occupy. I'm a supporter of Occupy. Okay, this is important because the youth have been left out. This is the first generation. Yes, libraries act to teach people to think rather than to act with their fists. But Bloomberg is driving people that way. I heard him talk to Liz Kruger. I like to listen like Dickens listened and picked up dialogue. Famously say on March 1st, 2009, before his first snowstorm that he missed, saying, I'm concerned about class warfare in New York City. This is March 1st, 2009, when they were talking about the state budget. So yes, you have to restore after-school programs, and extension of libraries is vital. Physical education, music, art, all of it has been gutted by this monster.
Thank you. Do you have any closing words?
I'm not optimistic. I'm a Gramscian in the sense I believe in optimism of the will and pessimism of the intellect. I've been tested. I've been going from place to place all over the city, invited to a lot of debates. I was thrown out of the Hunter College debate, but I went to the Bay Terrace Jewish Center 2 nights ago, and the moderator come up after me and said to me, you know, I was appalled by the way you were treated at that Hunter College debate. Okay? By the way, it was financed by ARP. But I have my mother's teeth, and she just passed this year. So I will fight on for the next 30 years against the violations that are taking place, because New York City is my living room, my laboratory, my life, and I will not have it violated by these financial predators and parasites, many of whom I went to school with. Thank you.
Thank you.